of a giant, the Satmar Rebbe, in honor of his 40th anniversary there. Satmar Rebbe, Zecher Tzaddik Livracha, passed away August 1979, just about 40 years ago to the day. You might say, why am I commemorating the Satmar Rebbe? Staunch anti-Zionist. State was created in 48. There was a lot of exuberance, excitement. And there was one giant that rallied against the state of Israel, and that was the Satmar Rebbe. And I'm going to commemorate him? The answer, of course I am. Yes, I believe the greatest bracha in 2,000 years, the greatest Kiddush Hashem in 2,000 years, and 70 years plus into the state, the brachos to me just keep snowballing, greater and greater bracha with challenges. And it's an amazing Kiddush Hashem that we could defend ourselves. Jewish blood isn't cheap. We built up yeshivas, world economy, helped the world out all over the place in terms of crisis and even day to day. What a bracha. Exact opposite of the Satmar Rebbe's ideas of the Medina Israel. As much as he hated Medina, that's how much I love it. And as much as he thought it was a klal, to me it's the greatest bracha. So why do I go ahead? Why will I talk about him? Because he was a giant in the Jewish people, who had one idea which I thought was just a disaster for the Jewish people, and had incredible ripple effects on the whole yeshivish world, and is very upsetting to me. And yes, in that area, I don't see his position at all. I think it was a disaster for the Jewish people, in my opinion. But a giant, because there's an area, a major area that I just don't see at all, and I embrace the other Gedolim against his position. He was a giant. We have to recognize it. He was born late 1800s, massive Talmid Chacham, learning Shas, Rishonim, Achronim, word for word by heart. He was a child prodigy, already 3, 4, 5 years old. We see there was a unique genius to him. And the Gemara, and the Rishonim, the Ktsos, Slach, Panei Yeshua, was learning them all by heart, just knowing and understanding it on a deep level, to the point that he would be giving shirim and visiting in America in the 50s. They'd ask him to give shirim in Nadarim. They're learning Nadarim Be'in in Cleveland, and he would just go ahead and, okay, what are you up to? And then boom, he would just be in there for an hour, 2 hours, learning and giving shirim and asking questions. He was holding Kol Torah Kula in Gemara, Rishonim, in Hashkafa, philosophy, you name it. So he was a giant child prodigy. Already in the 1920s, he was the Rebbe of a small town, and then in Satmar in 1929, the Rebbe of the town passed away, and they asked him to come for a Shabbos trial. And then the people were quite surprised. Here's a Rebbe, a Hasidic Rebbe, and in those days the Rebbes usually were known as great people, Tzaddikim, B'nai Torah. They're very inspiring in their tefillos and their brachos to people. But this is different. He had all the Hasidic rabbinic dressings, but he had this massive chachma. They said, oh my gosh, this Shabbos trial, forget it. You're hired. And he became the Rebbe there in Satmar in 1929. And the community was flourishing. The yeshivas were flourishing because he had this massive figure there. Talmid Chacham, a leader, charismatic. He was a fire. And the town was growing and growing. Before the Holocaust years, they helped him escape to Switzerland. He was there during the war years. And then he made his way to Israel by 46. He was in Israel for a couple of years. And then he went on a fundraising trip to the States. He met a lot of the old Hasidim from Europe, and they were in New York. And they said, Rebbe, you need to stay with us. You need to be our leader once again. And they built up Satmar. Originally, the people were happy just for everyone to be keeping halacha. America, 1950, Reform had a stronghold already from the 1700s. Conservative late 1800s, and these Orthodox, these old European rabbis, they're going to go ahead and speak to this new generation. No chance. So the Hasidim was saying, Rebbe, let's just keep halacha. He said, what are you talking about? All the minhagim of Satmar, all the minhagim of the Hasidic Jewry that we had, we're going to bring them over here. This kind of tights, we're going to have this kind of tights. This level of tznius, we're going to have this level of kasha, everything. And they're like, Rebbe. Didn't matter. He was a man, he just saw his version of emes, and he was going to go for no matter what. And he built up a community. Legendary pictures whenever he would go to Eretz Yisrael, They'd walk in Williamsburg, and he would be escorted by car. He would go towards the port. He'd take a boat, and then a community that he started in 50 or so, early 50s, with just a few hundred. There was hundreds of thousands of Hasidim lining the streets, waving him goodbye as he'd go to meet his representatives here in Eretz Yisrael. He built the Jews up after the Holocaust. The Chesed community, the Hatzalah. He was involved in saving the Jews in Europe. He was involved in the famous Bikur Cholim, the Satmar Bikur Cholim in America, where they visit people in hospitals. Legendary. Poor people from any background. He was there for them. He was just a malach of a person, building up yeshivas and communities and chesed, helping everyone out. No matter what kind of person it was, he was there to help out. And yes, he was the gadol that spoke so strongly against the state of Israel. He could barely get up into a public speech without somehow lambasting Israel. And that, to me, is sad. It is tragic. And the ripple effects are felt so strongly to this day. But to me, a gadol is a person who obviously believes in the 13 principles of faith. He's a Talmid Chacham. He's a Tzaddik. He gives his life to Klal Yisrael. A gadol who has an idea which I think is just so off. And I agree with all those gedolim that challenge him. I don't challenge gedolim. I would just agree with different gedolim and different issues. So I certainly side with the Rav Cooks and the Rav Soloveitchik and the Rav Lichtensteins of the world that this is a great bracha against the Rebbe. I think it was a damaging idea. But still, he was a giant of a person, a legendary figure. He went through crises in his life. He was in Europe during the horrible, horrible times. And he survived. He had 3 daughters. They all died during his lifetime. And one last point I'll mention about him, about his hashkafa. Yes, his hashkafa on the Medina Yisrael, to me, very, very upsetting. But 2 points I'll say. Number 1, he wrote it all down. It's all documented, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of pages with thousands of sources, where he explains his position and he puts it out there. He doesn't just say, this is my Das Torah, Eretz Medina Yisrael's evil, and that's it. No, he explains with his Talmudic type arguments. And then you could challenge it, which Rav Aviner wrote a whole book arguing with the Rebbe, but at least he put it all out there. Sometimes a person goes ahead, a rabbi says, this is Das Torah, and you can't argue with it. What do you mean? There's nothing to argue with. It's just a conclusion. Either you believe the person or you're kofar. That's horrible. Over here, the Rebbe put it all out there. So that's a tremendous praise of him. He wrote about it. Challenge, like any Talmudic analysis. And B, the Rebbe was consistent. He held the state as a shanda. It's a terrible enterprise. It's a klala. We can have no part of it. He was not part of elections. He didn't try to get money from the government. Didn't get handouts. Nothing. He was consistent till the end. So not only do I appreciate the Rebbe for all his greatness in so many areas of his life, but even his stand of Medina Yisrael, which to me is so off, still I appreciate his greatness. That he wrote it all out, and it's out there to argue and challenge. And B, he's consistent. Here's a lion. Don't take one dime for this Medina. We can't be part of the government because we don't hold by it. And we cannot imply in any way that we hold by it. We have to hold our position strong. So on the 40th anniversary of the Rebbe, we have to learn from his greatness, appreciate his greatness. And Yetz Hashem, his memory should always be an inspiration and a blessing. Shalom.